Hi everyone, my name is Durga Dharni, daughter of Sivadas, and my metric number is AA241660. I am from 2DAT Section 4 and I'm here today to present about a mobile application that I did, which is the Tic-Tac-Toe app. Now, I will be explaining the coding that I did in my activity underscore main.xml. The root layout is the main container that holds all the layouts in my app. I use the frame layout because it allows me to stack different layouts such as the main menu, play setup, and game screen in one single file. It also includes paddling and a custom wood background image to make the interface look clean and visually attractive. Inside the frame layout, I use the linear layout with a vertical orientation. This helps to organize the three main parts of my app one after another, starting with the main menu, then the play setup, and finally the game layout. The gravity is set to center to keep everything in the middle of the screen for a balanced design. Now we will see the main menu layout. This section is the first screen users see when they open the app. It includes a large text view that displays the title Tara's Tic Tac Toe and a single enter button below it. The enter button uses a custom background and color to make it stand out. When tapped, it takes the user to the next screen to enter the player's names. Next is the player setup layout. This part contains two edit text boxes where players can type their names. It also includes two buttons, which is the start game button and back button. The start game button begins the match while the back button returns users to the main menu. This layout is hidden when the app starts and only becomes visible when the enter button is pressed. The design is centered and uses white text for better readability. The last one is the game layout. This section is the tic-tac-toe game screen. It starts with a text view that shows whose turn it is. Below that, there is a grid layout made up of 9 buttons that form the 3x3 game board. Each button represents a cell where players can tap to place an X or O. This layout is also hidden by default and becomes visible when the Start Game button is clicked. At the bottom of the game layout, there are two more buttons, which is the Reset Game and Back button. The Reset Game button clears the board for a new round, and the Back button takes players back to the player setup screen. Both buttons have matching styles and colors to maintain visual consistency with the rest of the app. Next, I will explain the coding that I did in main-activity.java. The import statements and class declaration part imports all the important Android classes like app compared activity, on back pressed callback, and the UI components such as button, text view, and edit text. These imports allow the app to use Android's built-in functions. The class main activity is declared here, which is the main controller of the entire app. In the variable declaration section, I declared variables to represent the three layouts, which is main menu, player setup, and game layout. I also declared edit text for player names, buttons for the tic-tac-toe grid, and text views for the game status. Boolean and string arrays are used to track the game state, player turns, and board moves. The onCreate method runs when the app starts. It connects this Java file to the XML layout using setContentView and initialize all the components using findView by ID. This setup allows the app to recognize and control all buttons and layouts defined in the XML file. For the layout initialization, the layouts for the main menu, player setup, and game board are connected to the Java variables using find view by ID. This lets the code show or hide these screens during navigation inside the app. The main menu to player setup section handles the enter button in the main menu. When the button is clicked, the main menu layout is hidden and the player setup layout becomes visible. It helps the user move to the next screen to enter their names. The player name input and start game button part collects the players' names from the edit text fields. When the start game button is clicked, the program checks if both names are entered. If not, a toast message appears. If both names are filled, the game starts by calling the start game method. The back button code handles the back button from the player setup screen. When pressed, it hides the setup layout and returns the user to the main menu. It helps users easily navigate backward. The tic-tac-toe buttons and click handling is a loop that connects all 9 game buttons from the XML file to the Java code. Each button represents one square on the board. When a player taps any button, it calls the on-cell click method to handle that move. The reset and back buttons in-game screen defines what happens when the reset and back buttons are pressed. The reset button clears the game board using reset game, and the back button takes players back to the setup screen to enter new names or restart a match. The custom back button handling part customizes the device physical back button behavior. Instead of closing the app immediately, it brings the user back to the previous screen from game to setup or to menu. This makes the app flow smoother and more user friendly. The start game method hides the setup screen, shows the game layout, and resets the board. It also updates the text to display that its player one's turn at X. The on-cell click method runs whenever a player clicks a green button. It checks if the cell is empty, then marks it as X or O. It also checks for winner or draw, and if the game continues, it switches turns between players. This method checks all possible winning combinations, such as rows, columns, and diagonals. If any three cells in a line have the same symbol, it returns true, meaning a player has won. The reset game method clears all 9 buttons, resets the board values, and sets the turn back to player 1. It also updates the status text to show player 1's turn again. Now we have come to the last part of the presentation, which is demo of how the game works. Once you open the application, you will see a big white text which says Tara's Tic-Tac-Toe, as I mentioned earlier. Now I will tap the enter button to go to the second layout in where we will be entering the player's name. After entering the player's name, I am going to tap the start game button so that it will bring me straight to the game layout. Now you can start to play the tic-tac-toe game. You reset the game using the given reset button to play again, or if you want to go back to the previous layout, you can tap the back button. Thank you for lending me your ears and listening to the presentation that I just gave.